morning and welcome to Spirituality Gone Wild. That was just a hint that Cup of Grana will be joining you bright and early in the mornings. So today is Moon Day. Happy Moon Day, everybody. And you know what that means. We have Claudia Thompson in the house. Claudia! This is exciting. We're at it again. We are going to be talking about eclipse today, and I know I've heard there's some serious stuff happening about that. But first, how's your week been? How's this last week?
It was an amazing week. I really boogied on the new moon, and I started a masterminding with the moon group with some of my peeps, and it's been a really good week. I felt the Scorpio energy. Have you all felt that Scorpio energy, that emotional intensity ramping up? And it's really good to learn how to surf that. I gave you some clues last week. I'll give you some more today because it's not going to go away. We have to really learn to be good surfers. There was a book years ago by Jose Arguelles. He wrote it in the wake of his son's passing, Joe, and it was called Surfing the Zavuya. And he
Uh-huh.
talked about, surfing these times and understanding the larger cycles that we're all involved in and the multi time tracks that we all have an opportunity to choose now. So, so lots going on.
I love that. I love that. And so, welcome everybody. If you have any questions for Claudia, please type it into the chat. The first thing you can start typing in the chat, what is your moon sign? What is your moon sign? You don't know your moon sign? Just go, you can Google that on, I think it's Cafe Astrology. We're not connected with them. Just Google it and you can find out what your moon sign is, which is different from your sun sign. Claudia, why is the moon sign important for those who don't know?
Well, in astrology, the sun represents spirit and the moon represents your soul. So that's why I always say soulmates or moonmates, not just sunmates. You have to have a connection there because the moon is who you are behind closed doors. It's the way you perceive nurturing and security from the womb on. So sometimes things occur to our moms when we're in the womb that continue to impact us and create some toxic trauma. And it also has to do with our subconscious. So that's huge because we know that a huge amount of our operating system is subconscious, is underneath. So the more you work with the moon, the more you're in touch with that and you understand the way you're wired, your real operating system. And you know who you are at home, what you need when you come home to yourself. How do you nurture yourself? How do you find that core of security when you're out and about in the world? And the moon also reminds you that you can't draw from an empty well. It shows you, it gives you clues depending on the sign and the position and the aspects of how you can fill your well, not just half full, but to overflowing, so that people, when you're out in the world, people don't draw from your essential well, but they draw from your overflow. And therefore you are always full and on your way to fulfillment. And
Woo!
if you want to know about the moon, the phase at birth, what this means for you, get a lunar discovery session. That's that's a basic about half an hour to 40-minute reading that I do that tunes you into all of that, what it means for your health, for your relationships, for all of those things, because the moon has a big impact on all of that. And I always say that the stars, the planets impel, they do not compel. So in other words, the buck stops with you. It's up to you. Know yourself. And the more you know yourself, the more you're able to harness the heavens and live the life that you want.
Mm, I love that. Love that. And I have posted the Calendly link for anybody that's interested in booking a session with Claudia. That link is going to get you a special price for being on Spirituality Gone Wild. Thank you, Claudia. And Bob Browning, good morning. And good morning to all of you. I see that we have quite a few people watching. What's your lunar sign? And what does this eclipse mean for us? So I'm going to give the stage right on over to Claudia. She's going to dive in to what is to be expected. If you have questions, type those in the chat. I'll be watching for them. All right, Claudia, take it away.
Well, the energy's building. You've probably all been feeling it. And the thing that's really important is when those feelings come up to note them, because the promise of Scorpio is that if you do the deep dive, if you really look at those feelings, those old hurts, those old, possessive traits or jealousies that you hang on to, if you can cut the cords to those, you can reclaim the energy to transform your life. So you want to allow yourself to feel your feelings, but not get caught in the drama and the emotions. We had the heavens have been on the move. We had Venus moving to Capricorn on Friday, and then Mercury, 12 hours later, Mercury moved into Scorpio. So Venus is going to retrograde in Capricorn on the 19th of December, and it will be there until the 29th of January. It'll be retrograde, and in shadow until March 6th. So this is going to bump your relationships to a whole nother level, but it also tells you not to make any big decisions about relationships, preferably until it gets out of shadow. So you have the dates for that. Capricorn can often be about status. It asks us to go into deep self-respect, respect for all life. This is the high side of Capricorn. The low side is needing to control everything and everyone. And so the opposite of that is self-mastery. And I'm often reminded of the hanged man in Tarot. And the hangman is, upside down, hanging out there. How does that energy become right side up? The key is self-mastery. Learning how to have control, discipline around your own responses. And then with Uranus in Taurus, and this plays into this eclipse big time. And we had an opposition between the Great Awakener and that planet of sudden change that actually tunes us into wisdom, gives us sudden flashes of wisdom so we can awaken and rise. That was opposite the new moon. So we are getting these ahas as we release this emotional energy. And Taurus is all about values. It says, what do you value? Do you value yourself? Do you know that you are your greatest resource? And so we need to remember this, as Taurus is ruled by Venus. It's in harmonious angle with the Venus in Capricorn, and that's a good thing. But it also plays into this conundrum between status and values. Are you only enough if you have enough? Are you completely hypnotized by the bright and shiny that we've been taught is how we can value ourselves, that our bank account and our self-value are commensurate? Not true. How much do you need? We're being asked to really look at that so that we can live in harmony with the planet, because our bodies, psyches are of this planet. Now, what's interesting is, and I want to mention Mercury having moved into Scorpio. What does that mean? Well, that encourages deeper thinking. It's also that 8th house stuff, death and rebirth, nothing lightweight. So watch your thought processes as old beliefs, old constructs of thought crumble worldwide and in your own life personally, so that you can experience rebirth. That's a pretty wonderful, reward. But the death and decay process can be challenging. That's why the moon cycle is so great when you start to follow it, because it reminds you that we are in a continual cycle of birth, manifestation, creation, and decay, death, and rebirth out of that old energy that we reclaim. So we're building up to this full moon. And this full moon eclipse is going to be at 27 degrees, and it's a lunar eclipse. Now, the thing that's interesting about lunar eclipses is lunar eclipses bring up a feeling of emotional lack somewhere in your life. And if you know what 27 degrees of Taurus is in your chart, you can target that even more specifically. But we're going to see on a global scale what that kicks off as far as the challenges that people are feeling financially around, and just in general around what they need to be who they are. And that's what Taurus asks. What do you really need to be who you are? And then, of course, it gets down to the deeper question of, who are you really? Spirit. For me, spirit having a human experience, spirit in human form, spirit being a creator in form, and all the responsibility, again, Capricorn, big word, responsibility, taking responsibility for what that means in your life. This full moon, which is going to be in a week. It's not yet, it'll be next week. So I'm going to move on to what's on the lunar landscape for you this week. But I just want you to know that you're feeling this energy ramp up. We always do as we move into eclipse season. But now with this eclipse, passing with the moon passing over Uranus before it comes into the eclipse mode is really, really strong. It's going to really pop some awakenings and some awarenesses for us, even more so on an emotional level and on a level in the material world of how we're doing, what we need, what we truly need, how we are caretaking the planet in our own way, in our own environment. So this full moon is at 27 degrees, as I mentioned. Interestingly enough, the last full moon was at 27 degrees. So we're going to have 5 full moons in a row at 27 degrees. What does that mean? Why is that relevant? Well, I love the way the divine consciousness orchestrates these things, because the galactic center is at 27 degrees of Sagittarius. So each one of these full moons is aspecting that point. What is the galactic center? It is the sun of our sun. It is what the galaxy sort of rotates around, so to speak. And it is the source of the gravitational energy for our galaxy. So it's big stuff. It's a massive black hole. And I don't know if you remember, but last week I talked about the ahas, and to keep track of the ahas and the outlandish ideas, because they could have earning potential. So we are having, when the moon is full moon's in Taurus, it'll be doing a dance of adjustment with that galactic center. So how can you shine your light more brightly? Is that one of your highest values? And if it is, how can you be more free to shine that light? Do you have a cord to tons and tons of stuff? Are there things on a physical level that you need to clear out? I have a storage bin. One of my goals is to get rid of that thing, to sort through all of that stuff. I live in a small space, but I'm finding that I don't need those things that I thought I was attached to, that I thought I really needed. And then knowing you're enough. That's what Taurus really points to also, knowing that you are your greatest resource, that you've always been enough. Heck, you're magnificent. You're not just enough, you're beyond that. So what is the 9? Because the 27 adds up to a 9. The 2 is the feminine. It's that balance and harmony between the yin and the yang. The 7, Pythagoras said, was the most spiritual number. So it is a number of mutability. Odd numbers indicate change. So 7 reminds us about the change that we continually go through, recognizing that we are spirit in truth. And the 9 it's the final place before we merge with the divine. So it indicates finality. It indicates a divine completion. So that becomes really interesting in light of what's going on in our awakening, time of awakening in the world as a species. So we're going to have this hit on this for all of these full moons going into 2022. So here's this divine design. Full moons pop awareness. They pop clarity. They ask us to reflect. They ask us to really keep track of what's been revealed and how we've done with our manifestation as creators. Are we on track? Do we need to realign? Do we need to shift our consciousness? And we're all shifting our consciousness right now. So alchemy is afoot in this Scorpio cycle. Remember that. Alchemy is that process that happens when we uncover the lead and we release it, the emotional lead, the physical lead, and then we can turn our lives into gold. So this is, Scorpio holds out a huge promise. So as you're going up and down with the emotional intensity, that kind of lunar roller coaster that we can all go on, remember that it's bringing things up, the boogeymen from under the bed, the monsters that hide in the basement of our psyches. It's bringing these up so that you can take a look at them, because sometimes we don't see these things. And this cycle really brings up the veils are the thinnest. If you want to talk to your ancestors, if you want to have a conversation, if a hurt comes up and there's somebody who's not on the planet anymore, it's a perfect time to connect with them. Have a conversation. Get clear. Release them with love and light after you've cut your cords. And I know I had someone tell me that a couple people actually, that they used the cord cutting technique and called in Archangel Michael, and that it was really powerful for them. So remember that Archangel, that huge, enormous, loving energy is available for you to do that kind of surgery on yourself. Mars is in Scorpio. And so that indicates that you can surgically cut the cords to these old constructs, because Mars rules surgery. It rules knives. It rules sharp
Well,
things.
I love
Interesting,
this.
huh?
Oh, well, I love this because I fully believe that this is true. And I would love to, how is everybody doing out there? First off, hi, how's it going? Debbie here. If you have any questions for Claudia, please type it into the chat as well. What is your lunar sign? So we can do a really simple cord cutting and call Archangel Michael in a little while. If you guys want to hang out and want to hang tight, this is a really good time to do that. I love that idea, Claudia.
Well, just say hello. I love to know who's out there. And I
Please do.
appreciate all of you
Yeah.
so much. So yeah, hi Joe. Just let me know that you're out there. And Bob, wow, Moon Man. I love it. I love it.
Isn't that great? Great. I love this.
Hugs back
I
to
have
you.
definitely, definitely. So, what's your lunar sign? And any questions, please type it into the chat. And hang tight there. We're going to be doing a cord cutting.
Ruby Lee. Oh my gosh, one of the most fabulous artists I've ever known. And one of my dear friends, Ruby Lee.
Oh, well, hi, Ruby.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So I'm giving it back to Claudia, guys.
So where is that moon today as we begin this week? Well, the moon, it moved into Capricorn last night at 6:03 p.m. And we also, half an hour later, moved into the crescent phase. So last week, from the new moon was on Thursday, and you were asked to set your intentions. 3.5 days to each phase. So you had time. The ignition point was 2:14 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. It's now Pacific Standard Time, but that's what time that occurred. So the closest to that you can set your intentions, you're really in that ignition energy, that initiatory energy, but you have 3.5 days to get that straight. In the crescent phase, the keyword are, well, moonrise is 9 a.m., moonset is 9 p.m., and the moon moves forward during the 3.5 days, and it's rising about 50 minutes each day. So, and when you get a reading with me, you get something called Moon Phases at a Glance, and that gives you the shorthand for following the activity, the keywords of the moonrise and moon set. So it's really cool. So you can just put it on your refrigerator. And then the second page explains the length of a cycle and all of these little factoids that I happen to throw out there. So with the moon in Capricorn, I mentioned last week the story of how Elvis was born with under a Capricorn sun, and how his fellas in the Memphis Mafia, as they called it, had these gold abstract chains that said TCB, taking care of business. And that's what Capricorn encourages us to do. Take care of business. Get your week planned. The crescent phase is when you mobilize your resources. What does that mean? You get the things together mentally, physically, that you need to move those intentions forward. The light's beginning to grow. So the energy, you've got the wind beneath your wings to move forward on your intentions. And we don't have a void of course moon today because it's in Capricorn, so that's good. So all systems go, so to speak, and of course in a gentle, rhythmic manner, respecting your energy. And tomorrow, we do have a void of course moon, and it's a long one, so just be aware. So void of course moon, a lot of astrologers say nothing happens. To me, it simply means take a breath. You are moving forward. Your life's always in motion. The fluids in your body are in motion, etc. So it's not like everything just stops, but just know that you can't push the river. You can't push forward in the same way. So it's a great time to look at what you need as far as your resources to move your intentions forward. So 6:52 a.m. to 7:02 p.m. tomorrow is a void of course moon, because the moon moves into Aquarius at 6:52 a.m. to 7:02 p.m. 7:02 p.m. the moon moves into Aquarius, and the mood shifts. Both of these signs, Capricorn and Aquarius, ruled by Saturn. So they tell you, along with Venus in Capricorn, that hatching a plan is really going to make your energy thrive. So we're in the balsamic phase. We're in a wind down phase. We need to rest, honor our energy. We've had daylight savings time instituted now. So we have that falling back time. And, it enables us to go to bed a little earlier in a way. I mean, as far as what the numbers say. So I find it easier to adapt to this time shift than to the other time shift. But, monkeying with time is not my favorite thing, as you know. But so when it comes to tomorrow, you're going to have Mars conjunct Uranus tomorrow. So on Tuesday, just remember, heavy conversations are not supportive, along with the void of course moon telling you that, because the energy, it might not be so clear mentally, and you might find that your words just fail to encompass the full extent of what you want to say. So just be aware of that. Take it easy. It's really interesting. It's lovely the way the divine energy is just kind of easing us into this time of year. And I know it sounds kind of cross purposes, like, well, you're telling me to make a plan.
Yeah.
But yet you're telling me that we're moving into the depth of the dark. Well, they're not.
So we have a
I
great
see those
question here.
questions. Yes.
Yeah, Libra, and I'm going to read it out loud just in case anybody's just listening and not looking up on the screen. I think it's really interesting that the last 5 full moons were at 27 degrees. Could this signify the death of old beliefs or the old self, or old systems, or I'm going to add the shift into what we all are calling the new paradigm? And he is a Libra moon. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah. It's actually the 5 full moons coming. We had the last full moon in Aries at 27 degrees, the one upcoming next week, and then 3 more. So they're on their way. And I feel you're absolutely right. And here's a deeper level of that. At the beginning of the year, last year, we had the nodes of the moon in Sagittarius and Gemini. And so the nodes of the moon are on the ecliptic. They're not planets, but they are destiny points. And they move backwards through the zodiac. So we had the lunar node, the south node, conjunct the galactic center when it got to 27 degrees, which was pretty early on. So that was as we completed last year and moved into this 2021. And so it's about beliefs. So you're right on, Joe. Yeah. The Sagittarius asks us to look at where we are self-righteous, where we hold judgments, and judgments usually often precede guilt, blame, shame, those things. And also, as I've said before, judgment closes our heart. So this whole year, we've been asked to notice how our deeply entrenched beliefs lock our hearts, so that we are not loving, so that we find ways to separate ourselves from each other. COVID and the vaccine and all of that has really given people a ground to do that, or to recognize where they do that. Do you open your heart no matter what someone's political affiliation is, religious affiliation? Do you use those things to open a conversation where you can listen and understand more of what's happening with humans, which can open your compassion wider? So with it adding up to a 9, it definitely has to do with the release of old beliefs. It's what we are being asked to do in this time of awakening. The nodes are going to shift. This eclipse in Taurus, the nodes are always involved in eclipses. And so the fact that we've had the eclipses in Gemini and Sagittarius throughout 2021. Now we have this first eclipse in Taurus. And this is a preview of the nodal shift into Taurus and Scorpio that is going to be overarching 2022. So we will have a solar eclipse December 12th with the new moon in Scorpio, in Sagittarius. So that will be the last. So watch for that, because that eclipse will pop new light and new information into that area of your chart, and also pop new light and new information into those areas regarding beliefs, judgments, the self-righteousness. The high side of Sagittarius, and the South Node always says, what are you bringing forward? What beliefs are the comfort couch of your existence? Because the North Node's in Gemini, and that's asking us to be open to learning. Sagittarius is the professor of the zodiac. So there's a lot of possible positive wisdom and opportunity for expansion there if we can release those old beliefs and, and replace them with something that's stronger. After all, beliefs are beliefs. They're not truth. They're beliefs. Beliefs are malleable, but oftentimes they were formed from when we were little bitty kids. We were given our belief system, and the culture continues to pummel us with the preferred belief systems. But now we're in a time where we're recognizing that we're creators, so we get to choose our own, and we need to live deliberately at choice. And that's why a plan of some sort is important. And that's where I love working with people to get their visions online and hatch a plan. And it's not something, it's a perfect thing to do in the depth of the dark, to begin to look at what works, what doesn't, how am I different from the beginning of the year in what I want and what I need. And how am I going to navigate moving forward as we move toward the Pluto return of the United States in February, which is going to have ripples that go on for a long time that affect the whole world. So thanks for your question, Joe. I appreciate that. That was a good one. And by the way, as I think I mentioned at the beginning, Sagittarius, that alignment with the galactic center at that time is what, at the end of last year, that's what's being re-energized now, again and again and again. Different angles give different characteristics of energy, different dances and challenges, so to speak.
Well, I want to pop in here, and we have a great audience. Please type any questions you have. Who's watching? Who are you? Who are you out there? What's your moon sign? And any questions so far? There's also a link I just posted. If you're interested in getting a reading personally at a special Spirituality Gone Wild rate, it is right there in the chat. No matter where you're watching from, you can see that link. So, Claudia, this
Yes.
this is just so interesting. Bob he's a Gemini. He's a Gemini moon. He's a Gemini moon.
Well, variety is the spice of life for you, Bob, as you know. And the challenge is to focus. So, and to breathe from your belly, not just from your chest, and to do some sort of discipline as far as your exercise goes that has you breathing with full awareness every day, because in order to live fully, you have to breathe fully. And, the challenge, Gemini is a sign of duality. Its symbol is the twins. It's mutable air. And so that is a lot of mental energy. There's a lot of brilliance associated with the Gemini moon. But the challenge sometimes is the listening part, especially in relationship, to really listen to your mate, to really hear what they are saying. I'm in reverse here. This bothers me. Okay. So when you have a Gemini moon, you might find that you move through a lot of partners in life and a lot of different interests. So this is something for Gemini moon. And of course, when we talk about the North Node being in Gemini this year, Gemini rules the media. It's one of the most powerful soul groups on the planet right now, the media. And so all this emphasis on Gemini reminds you to program yourself, to really listen. And I don't know if I think I mentioned this last week. It might have been in the summit I did this weekend. But anyway, let's watch this for a second. Okay, now I'm going to talk to you like this. Can you feel the deflection of energy? Can you feel how it's just not the same as this? This is how you want to listen, especially in relationship. And this is what Gemini says. Listen, as opposed to thinking of what you're going to say next, because the mind is so busy in Gemini. It's ruled by Mercury. So, sorry about that. So you want to be able to focus your attention. It's very charismatic when you give someone your full energy field and you're really listening to them. So as you listen, take in what they're saying and their energy field, you'll know what's appropriate. Sometimes no response is needed, but other times it tells you where they're at. And that's the challenge with the Gemini moon, not assuming where people are at, not assuming you know where they're at, allowing them to let you know, because this is the sign of the communicator, Gemini. and like I said, of the media. So lots of interests all over the place. So that scatteredness can be helped a lot with pranic breathing, full body breathing. So I want to go into what's happening on Wednesday. When we wake up, the moon is square Mars. So you may find that there's some frustration and anger that builds throughout the day. Remember whatever tools you have to breathe, to ground, to drop into your heart, keep your heart open. The thing is, what it's going to show you, those frustrations, that anger, is aiming to guide you to breakthroughs. And those breakthroughs can come later in the day. So just keep track of that flow on Wednesday. And then Thursday is 11/11, big numerological day. That's a master number, a double master number. So it reminds you to work your mastery as those tensions can continue throughout Thursday. And you've got another void of course moon on Thursday that lasts from 11:52 a.m. Pacific Standard Time until 11:54 p.m. So it's a 12-hour void of course, so that's a long one too. So if you've got something that you've got to do that moves your intentions forward, it's really good to get it done before that time if you can. And then just watch your emotional energy, because you may find that there's some domestic unrest. And when I say domestic unrest, that's not just in your own home necessarily, but in the world, in the country, domestic unrest. So, work your stuff, because the moon is moving into Pisces at 11:54 p.m. And that reminds us about the compassionate heart, to practice radical compassion and kindness. And that's one of the things that moon moving into Pisces will help you with, so that, Friday is a little easier day. You can transcend the current drama with the kindness and compassion. And we have as an opportunity to just manifest a kinder world. How do you walk that? How are you part of that? Yeah. Oh, good, Joe. Glad that could be helpful. Yeah, check it out. Check out how that feels. But yeah, if you can, I know years ago I knew about void of course moons, but I wasn't really aware, that they had such a practical application. And I was working with a realtor in Marin who had a Century 21 brokerage, and we were making appointments for me to speak about the rhythms of the moon in business. And we started looking at the calendar, and she was like, no, not there, no, not there, no, not. And I said, okay. And she said, no, I'm looking, excuse me, at void of course moons. And I said, wow, you really pay attention to those, huh? Sorry. And she said, yes, I do, because I found that there's just not the same energy flow during that time. And so she said, I try to actually schedule meetings to precede my caravans, to get the schedule in order, to do accountability, to find out where everybody is, so that then we move forward once the moon moves forward. And I went, okay, so this is a practical thing, this which makes sense, right? If the moon dances with the heavens and then it stops its dance and there's no energy coming through to move you forward, it's really good to have a heads up on that, right? So then we come to Saturday. And Saturday, we've got a void of course moon that begins at 9:40 p.m. the night before and goes till 7:48 a.m. So that's Pacific time. Most of you will be sleeping then. But if there's someone in a different time zone, shift that time in case that's impacting you. And so we continue through the weekend with, and Sunday morning, that moon moves out of void of course time. And at 7:48 a.m., the moon moves into Aries, pioneering Aries. And so you're asked on Sunday to think of how you're going to blaze new trails. Where are you a pioneer? Where is the Mars energy and that Venus and Capricorn energy kind of squaring each other? How can they find a happy meeting place so that you're pioneering, loving new trails? And at that point, let me see, I'm looking for the last quarter phase. I've got so many notes here, people. Just be patient with me.
So just go ahead and
we entered the give us
post
phase on Sunday, but that last quarter, I mean, the first quarter phase is a really, you know, it's a big deal. So we're going to enter that first quarter phase on Thursday at 4:45 a.m. So when you wake up Thursday, you'll be in the first quarter phase. First quarter phase, a week of this cycle has passed. And it's telling you, as the moon rises at noon and sets at midnight, to boogie on your intentions, that you've got to take action because you've only got a week left before that eclipse of the outward, active, building, growing energy to support your intention. Okay, Debbie, yeah?
Oh, I was just popping in saying if you guys want to know more about your moon sign, let us know what your moon sign is. If you have any questions, post them into the chat. And also, there is a link in the chat. I'll post it again right now. If you're curious about getting a reading for yourself, please do that. And you've got a special price for Spirituality Gone Wild. So the link is there. I just posted it again. So go ahead and book your reading. These readings are great because they really give you more of a map to what's going on. And I love how the Claudia says that the moon is your moon sign is what's going on behind closed doors. And thank you, Elisha Star.
Thank you, Elisha. Dear Elisha. Well, it's early where she is, so I really appreciate her showing
So
up.
worth it.
She's
I agree.
She's in paradise in Hawaii. Hope you don't mind me saying that, Elisha. Yeah.
Okay.
So one of the things you learn, you know, is the things that I love about lunar astrology is lunar astrology cuts to the chase. Do I look at your whole universe? Yes. But what's your soul's purpose? You don't hear about that in most readings. And that's because it has to do with your pre-birth eclipses. So eclipses are lunar and solar events. This moon has no light of its own, but it's when one of the heavenly bodies becomes occluded, either the sun or the moon. That creates an eclipse. And by the way, why are eclipses such big deals? Well, first of all, life jumps to another level. And as one of the luminaries is occluded or blocked in its light, we move deep into our emotional nature in a lunar eclipse, and in a solar eclipse, that light pops outward. And so if you look back to 18 years ago, you will see the same time we had a lunar eclipse, we had an eclipse at 27 degrees of Taurus. So lunar eclipses, we feel an eclipse, really, actually, those who are sensitive feel it moving in, you know, at least 6 weeks prior. So at that time, we start to feel the energy ramp up. It's like, wow, my emotions seem to be turbocharged, or the energy seems to be turbocharged. So the nature of a full moon or new moon gets turbocharged. And with a lunar eclipse, in the 6 months following, and this is true of both lunar and solar, in the 6 months following, and depending on the duration of the eclipse, it can be shorter or longer as far as its deep impact. We feel the impact of the characteristics and the energy and the themes of these eclipses and what they bring up. But it imprints in the case of a lunar eclipse for 18 years, and in the case of a solar eclipse for 19 years. So you're going to want to be with me next Monday as I talk about how to move into that eclipse and utilize the energy most effectively, because you're going to be creating an imprint. And the thing that I found interesting when I started this work was it works you anyway. It's like you can either have this imprint happen by default or by deliberation. So, you know, it's up to you. But I find that in these times, most of us want to live more deliberately. You know, even though we're walking on a moving ship or a moving train, we want to be able to navigate, you know, with the rhythms, with some ease and grace. So does anybody have any questions about what I have been talking about or anything else?
I'm looking. I don't see any questions yet. I have a Libra moon.
Yes. And that's all about balance. And that's why it's so interesting that we've got, and you also have that Capricorn energy as well. So we've had Venus, which rules both Libra and Taurus. Venus in Libra has to do with our ideas, our aesthetic sense, and harmony, balance, and justice in relationships, finding win-win solutions. And relationships in general. Libra is oriented toward relationships, reminds us that it's one of our biggest learning grounds. So we had a Mercury retrograde in Libra during that Libra cycle, the last cycle, and it gave us an opportunity to recalibrate our communication and relationships. So now we've got that ruler of Libra, Venus, moving into Capricorn. And so it's telling us to take a breath and really look at what's coming up in our relationships. Venus in Capricorn will bump our relationships to a whole new level, but it's asking us to really take a breath around our plan. Make sure that we're on the same page in our relationships and not jump. Capricorn's deliberate. When you think of the mountain goat moving up the mountain goat, it learns, it can climb sheer walls of rock. When I see these films of this, I'm just amazed. It climbs these sheer walls of rock sure-footedly. So it can move quickly once it learns how, once it's got that foundation underneath it, so that it's able to leap from a sure foundation. And that's the plan. That's the getting your ducks in a row. That's the knowing what's happening. And that's why, especially during the holidays, when we all really feel the need for relationships, not just with our significant other, but with everybody, our relationships and our connectedness to everybody. So how does that manifest for us? Did we recalibrate our communication? Because if we didn't, we'll get to see during the holidays where we can or where we need to. What kind of relationship do I want? What do I want in relationship? And as I said, Capricorn can be very status oriented. So we have to look at that too. What do we truly value? And allowing those deep values of compassion, love for humanity, having a vision of an equitable playing field for everybody, all of these things, how can we bring that into our relationships? Because the challenge with Capricorn is the desire to control. And in relationships, that can be a death knell, because we're all coming into a time of self-mastery. So it gives you an opportunity to, when the retrograde happens in December, it'll give you an opportunity to clean up all that stuff before we move into a new cycle of partnerships and relationships. So, Libra moon has to have relationship. They fly in relationship, but sometimes it can be an all or nothing kind of construct, because sometimes in relationship, Libra doesn't have great boundaries. And so sometimes the relationships get thrown out the window so that the person can find themselves again. So one of the challenges with the Libra moon is establishing those boundaries up front, knowing what you need, listening to what the other person needs, getting a common ground around those healthy boundaries.
I love that. Because it's true. Anybody out there is struggling with their boundary. You know what, actually, Claudia, what I love is that boundaries is nothing more than you making sure that you're speaking your truth. Because if you're saying yes when you mean no, you're not speaking your truth, and therefore your boundaries might be stinking. Pew.
Well, also, sometimes people honestly don't know what they need.
Right.
Aries is me first. Aries is here to do themselves. They are, and it's not, I'm not saying that that's in a mean way, but they're very clear generally with their boundaries. So Libra is me first, then you. So that can oftentimes mean that when they were a child, they didn't really learn good boundaries. They didn't really learn what they needed and how to put that first.
Right.
So that's the first order of business. So, sometimes, you've got that Capricorn rising, so that gives you an edge on having the good boundaries. But I know I have a couple clients with Libra moon, and we work with those boundaries all the time, because the only way they sometimes know how to establish those is to completely disconnect. So it's either complete immersion or complete disconnection. And it's finding that middle ground where the seesaw, where you're at the fulcrum of the seesaw, and you can choose how it goes up and down with more clarity.
I think that's beautiful. So
Shall
anybody, oh yeah.
Shall we do some, if anybody has a question, write it in. Otherwise, let's do some cord cutting.
Let's do some cord cutting, y'all.
So I don't know if there's anything that you all have thought of that you want to release when you did your new moon intentions, that the Scorpio cycle's bringing up, or that anything that I've said today is bringing up. But I was given a really, really beautiful breath the other day when I was in meditation. It was a wonderful download. And so I'm going to do that with you. And it has to do with the luminous Scott. What is that? That's the infinity sign. And it's like an 8 on its side. So we're going to use that. And I'm going to guide you through that. I'm going to describe it. And then we're going to do it. Okay. So one of the things that will guide you through this time, and the Gemini moons earlier, this is especially good for you. I want you to put your hands on your belly, because belly breathing is something, as we move through these tumultuous times, that will really help ground you. They will help bring you into your body, so you're not in panic, so you're not affected by your own fear or the fears in the, in the general climate right now. So remember, control also comes from fear, and need to control. Be with you in a minute.
So if anybody wants to book a reading, the link is in the chat, no matter where you're watching. If you don't see a link, then just go to Claudia's Facebook page and you can find that. Claudia Moon Powered Astrology. You guys can find her right on Facebook. So make sure that you go and join and like her page and keep up to date with everything that's going on with the moon.
And you can message, there too. And by the way, when you make an appointment for a reading, you automatically get a complimentary pre-session chat that we schedule. That's like 15 or 20 minutes for me just to really nail down where you are right now and what's going to give you the most benefit right now. I'll look at your whole universe, but I want to really target your urgencies right now. So
now, can you explain, in case that there's anybody out there that does not understand what a cord cutting is, can you explain what that means?
Yes. Everything we own in life, every emotional, I call it a critical mass, anything that we hang on to emotionally has a cord of energy to it. And those cords actually are in areas of your body. So they siphon energy off that you otherwise could be using to move your dreams and your desires forward. I feel like my glasses are crooked here. And so cord cutting, targeting the cords is one thing. Noticing where they are in your body is another. And it can be challenging because sometimes these cords are there from a long, long time ago. Maybe even something you brought in and re-energized from a past life. So that's why I'm going to be calling on Archangel Michael to come and help us. So the first thing I want you to do is put your feet on the floor, palms up in your lap, receptive, allowing. And I'm going to describe this meditation, this breath, and then we will go into the meditation. So as you breathe in, you breathe from the soles of your feet, about 3.5 feet below the soles of your feet is your Earth star, your own personal connection magnetically as you move through the planet to the Earth. And you feel that energy, that supportive, sustaining, loving energy coming up through your feet, your calves, your knees, all the way up, expanding your belly. And so the energy moves out, round like your belly, and then it begins to move in to your heart, and then up through your third eye, the pineal gland that's right in this, it's in the center of your brain above the pituitary. And then as you exhale, it moves out through the third eye right here, coming down this way, back through your heart and behind your belly. So that's the figure 8. Rounding out through your belly, up through your heart. Your heart is the matrix of the all possibility, luminous Scott, the infinity sign. Up, out through your third eye, down through your heart, down through behind your belly. So that the whole, all the energy center, the whole chakra is filled with prana, life force. And that's the thing. It's the breath. It's the breath of source. It's the breath of God breathing you. So it's not just air. It's more. It's the life force. So let's close our eyes and let's take some of those delicious breaths. Bringing it up, inhaling, belly moves up through the heart. Third eye, exhale. Down through the heart, through the belly. Inhale again. Mouth closed on the inhale. Mouth open on the exhale. Allow your shoulders to drop. On the next exhalation, any tension is released from your whole body. You can put one hand on your belly and one hand on your heart if that feels better. And of course, the center is your heart. And now you can ask a question of yourself. I'm going to bring in your higher self, your angels, your guides, your guardians, and ask, what needs to be released? What would you benefit from releasing that would help you manifest your intention for happiness, for a life of ease and grace, whatever it might be? Bring that forward. And on the next breath, drop into your heart and ask to be shown where those cords are. You might be surprised. There might be one cord. There might be many cords. There could be 100 cords. Just notice that. And now we call on Archangel Michael. And of course, this energy is so high, it is neither male nor female. It's the pure light and power of Archangel Michael. And you see, feel, know this energy coming into your field now. And you see a blazing, flaming sword. And you give Archangel Michael permission, you call on him to help you cut those cords. Painlessly, effectively, completely, and forever. Inhale, whoosh, on the exhale, the cords are cut. And the cords, that energy, flies back into the native nothingness from which they came, back out into the universe. And like beautiful surgery, the areas are closed and filled with light. And you become aware again of the figure 8 breath. Relaxing into this new, freer self. And when you feel complete, we thank you, Archangel Michael. We thank you so much for your guidance and your help with this. And we thank our guides, guardians, angels, and beloved higher selves for helping us release this energy, for reclaiming more of our light. And when you feel complete, open your eyes and come back.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Does
Thank
anybody
you,
have any
Claudia.
I'd love to know somebody's experience. I'd love to know if it was effective for people. If you have any questions about this, because simple but really deep, big stuff here.
Release and let go.
That's, surrender and forgiveness. Those are two big words for Scorpio. And I remember years ago, I was talking to Marianne Williamson about forgiveness. She was talking about how it's a gift you give yourself because you forgive. You go back and establish, go back to the energy field before anything happened. So it's like, it really does give you that fresh start, but that's surrendering to the process of letting go. And to do this outside. So
What Joe says is that that was amazing. And the question is, would it be beneficial to do this outside so our feet or root chakra is closer to the earth, or does that matter? Joe, that was such a good question. I'm literally smiling. That was very good. He's learning quickly.
Yeah, and I appreciate the questions. Well, about the Earth star, first of all, I think anytime you can get out and touch the Earth, it shifts your energy so magnificently.
Mm-hmm.
It's important for us to do that every day. I used to live in New York, and I lived 23 stories up. And so a lot of concrete, right? And so when I would meditate, I would see the energy shooting from my feet all the way down below the sub basements to 3.5 feet below the earth. So wherever you are, I live in the desert now, so I'm very close to the earth. But for those of you who live in buildings or where there's concrete slabs under you, envision that energy moving down below that. And if you can do this, if you can do this, like sit in a chair out there with your feet touching the earth or stand on the earth, yeah, I would think that would be even more powerful, because then the energy, they can just go back into the earth. It can go out into the universe, those old, what I call critical masses of energy, or it can go down into the earth. Either one, whatever works for you. But I feel, Joe, like you're being called to do some of this work, really working with the earth energy. And with this eclipse coming up in Taurus, that's beautiful. And Uranus is going to continue in Taurus. We've had an overarching transit of Saturn square Uranus, which has taken us actually back to the 60s. This energy was seeded when this country began. And now we're moving through the final square of this energy. And it is radical revolution in our thinking. And that's what the awakening is. It's this evolutionary, revolutionary new way of thinking and being. And we may actually see some earth changes during this time. So the more grounded you can be, and I mean, it's a beautiful thing actually to go out and just send your love to the earth, to calm the earth, to be grateful to her for being still under your feet, because that's not a given. The earth is always growing and changing and evolving and moving. Right. Yeah. So
well, this has been
question, Joe.
That was a great question. Thank you, sweetie. So now we are at this point at the top of the hour. And once again, it has been another extraordinary moon day. So happy moon day, everybody. The link is in the chat to book a reading with Claudia and get a special price from Spirituality Gone Wild, which I think is awesome. And if you're just joining us or you're popping in, make sure that you go back and watch the replay for the entire report, as well as the cord cutting that just happened. So thank you, everybody, for being here. We love you. And Claudia, thank you, as always, for being just extraordinary.
Have a wonderful week. I'll be with you next Monday, and we will tap into that eclipse energy so you're ready for whatever's going to pop in your life. And remember, I love you to the moon and way beyond.
We love you to the moon. Bye.